Welcome to Quantum Quest Conversations. I'm your host, Megan.
And I'm your host, Haydee.
The podcast where curious conversations lead the way into awakening, growth, and infinite discovery. Whether you're just beginning your quest or deep in your awakening, you'll find inspiration through stories, lessons, and personal experience. Settle in, open your heart, and let curiosity lead the way.
So welcome to this episode. In this episode, we are going to talk about divine timing. Divine timing, the way we understand it, it's when, something is happening to us and something happens or something calls us on over the phone, or we just happen to meet a person that tells some specific information about what we might be going through and either gives us a light or gives us an idea what we can do. It's just it comes at the right time and the precise moment we need it. What do you think, Megan? What's divine timing for you?
Yeah, divine timing to me is just when everything unfolds perfectly. And as humans, it is really, really hard to wait for that divine timing. A lot of times we don't have the patience for it, and we just want to know, what's going to happen? How is this going to unfold? And we are kind of living in the future or staying in the past. But divine timing is when we let go and we let, whether you want to God, the universe, whatever you prefer to call it, but we just kind of let go and let God take over, and something will perfectly unfold for us. So we have some stories. Actually, our podcast, that's what happens with our podcast. It was divine timing. It's really funny. I think back, so exactly a year ago, I was about to launch a podcast. I just knew I had this calling to start a podcast. It was coming up during my meditations. I went and got all the equipment. It's been like staring at me in my room, and I just knew I was supposed to do it. I had found someone, that was super energetic, would be a cool, co-host. We were running ideas. We were about to record our first podcast. And unfortunately, my dad passed away. And so I just put that whole project on hold. And there was something about it. I wasn't 100%. There was something like we could never kind of, I feel like, decide on a name. We just kept going back and forth. Even like the topic of what we wanted to talk about, it seemed like it was going back and forth. And there was always just like a little piece of the puzzle that was like missing. And I felt like I was kind of forcing it. And it had nothing to do with the co-host I was going to do it with. She was absolutely amazing, but there was just like this little piece of the puzzle I just couldn't fit. But anyway, so time goes on. I mean, I was grieving my dad, and I wasn't even really thinking about the podcast until really recently. The last like few months, it started popping back up again. But as time went by, I had a clear vision. I knew what I wanted to do for this podcast. And when we talk about divine timing, it was really funny. Haydee out of nowhere just texted me and was just like, "Do you want to start a podcast?" And we really don't know each other that well. We just had met in class, but it was just that this divine timing feeling, and I knew it was right. She had already had, a name of the podcast, planned out. She had a vision of what she wanted our logo to be, and what the topics that she wanted to talk about were perfectly in line with what I wanted to talk about. And it was just like, wow, what are the odds? I do not believe in coincidences. You're going to hear me say that a million times on this podcast, because just the things that happen in our lives is just like blown away. It's like there's no coincidences. So when all that unfolded, I was just like, all right, this is it. This is meant to be like this. Like I was trying to force it last time, and it just wasn't the time for me. But when you text me, it was meant to be.
I had uh, an aunt that she was married to an alcoholic, and he was not very responsible when it comes to finances. So she was taking care of all the finances. And so eventually, one of his debts came to claim, right? Like they started calling, and so they froze his assets.
Wow.
And she had a business, and all of a sudden, a client, gave her a double check, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, this was like $300." And she said, "No, no, no, you're paying me double." And she said, "Oh, it's okay. You're so good with what you do that you just keep it."
Yeah.
And then the same, no, 2 weeks later, she got a license to expand her business. And she was able to keep up with the expenses. And that was, for me, when I heard her story, it was just pure divine timing because, she was able to keep up with the expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they paid the debt and
Wow.
everything. And I just want to say that maybe it's not that he was not responsible, but maybe it's because he was just not on top.
Hmm.
My aunt, she was on top of the finances, but it was just such a, imagine who's gonna give you double check for anything and tell you to
Yeah.
keep it.
Right.
It's just
That's
it is
crazy.
it's crazy because even like, as much as a kind person you want to be, like you would be, oh, thank you. Yeah, but just keep it. To me, that's one of the divine timing. Or, divine timing could be also coinciding in the same class with you, where there's so many classes and we could have taken anything,
Oh,
but
yeah.
and we got to meet each other. And to me, we were talking the other day also about how lonely we tend to feel when we're in the spiritual journey, and nobody really understands or nobody really gets you. And
Yeah.
there's people that might be able to listen to you, but they don't really get it.
Right.
And so, you felt lonely, I felt lonely, and I remember praying to God, like, why can't I have a friend where I could be myself? Not
Yeah.
have to always be hiding a part of myself.
Yes.
And then, we came to meet our tribe, our people, and there's so many lovely ladies and, that we have met. I
Oh,
want to say
yeah.
mostly ladies because we do have a male classmate, but he's just as lovely too.
Yeah.
And here we are. Is this not divine timing? I don't know what it is, but I don't feel alone. I feel like we can laugh about things other people will be like, and
Yeah.
so it's a blessing. And I just know that things will happen when you least expect them, but they will be like the perfect fit for the piece of the puzzle that you were experiencing, you were talking about. It's gonna be the right piece that you are missing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, if people can learn to let go, and it is like a very hard lesson to learn of like fully letting go and trusting that that next step will just be in front of you, your life will be like so smooth and just like go with the flow. I look back in my life and I actually how my husband and I got together, it's really funny. And I think it's really crazy how you and I have a lot of like parallel stories. But my husband and I, we actually met in high school, and um, we went to like a private school, so it wasn't like super close by. It wasn't like everybody in the neighborhood went to this school. Everybody was from all over. And I found out that he actually lived around the corner from me. So we grew up literally around the corner from each other like our whole lives. And we met in high school, became like best friends. And we never dated. We were always just best friends, stayed in touch literally every day, talked to each other. he even got married, had two kids, and our I was like in a long-term relationship, and it wasn't until like our late 20s, like I think we were like, I don't know, 28 or something, um, that we ended up getting together. Like he had gotten a divorce and I had left my relationship. And it was, when I say divine timing, like the synchronicities, and at this point in my life, I had no idea what synchronicities were. I did not understand this whole like spiritual like kind of side of things. So I was I don't know about you, but I always feel like I'm being like watched. Like I feel like am I being like recorded, because the stuff that is happening to me just seems like so
Crazy.
crazy and like out of a movie. But I remember uh and honest God, like we were just best friends, my husband and I. But when we both ended up single at the same time, it was so bizarre. It was like every single song that came on the radio was talking about marrying your best friend. Every like movie we watched had the theme of marrying your best friend. It everywhere. Like people would be just randomly talking about it. It would be in books. It was like I could not escape it. I was like, okay, I feel like the world is telling me something. And that's ended up how we got together. But it was, I mean, the divine timing. It was like spirit was in the air sprinkling dust over our heads, like trying to get us to fall in love and be together. It was perfect timing, and I feel like the rest of my life just keeps unfolding like that.
Yeah, some things sometimes just are mind blowing. Like for me, I had an experience just recently in which, there's been a little turmoil in my life, which it's important to say that just because we're spiritual doesn't mean that we're not going to go through, hardships or questions, or it's just not. We're still imperfect, working on being better, but
Right,
never perfect. And
right.
so I was going through a turmoil, and during a meditation, I got the point that one of the challenges in my life was to learn to love myself.
Oh,
Because as a child, I didn't learn that very well. I was always second doubting myself. And so after that, I started doing a lot of things to, start loving myself again, doing the things I like, or promises I made myself as a child. And I started trying to accomplish them, whatever the result it was, like
hmm,
writing the book,
yeah.
and it didn't matter to me what result it was going to be, but doing it because me as a child wanted to do that. And so
Oh,
then I started to hear a book, but it's in Spanish, but it's called From Me Para Me, or From Me to Me. And
oh,
it's the story about this kid who lost his grandmother, and he starts a journey to find himself. And the whole book was about, him grieving his grandmother. I'm grieving my mother, like you're grieving your dad,
yeah.
and about finding himself. And the whole book is just precious. And so then my daughter during the weekend, one of my daughters, she comes and she tells me, "Hey, mom, you want to watch a movie?" And that's a very rare thing for them to tell me because they're like, watch their shows and whatnot, but on their own. And I said, of course. And we went and she chose the movie, and it was Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh,
And the whole movie, it's about the same thing: grieving, love, and maybe it wasn't in the same way, but it was grieving, love, and a journey to find yourself. If that's not divine timing, when, you know, things happen out of nowhere to find you and tell you, they almost telling you, like, with mimics and everything, this is what you need to do. But sometimes, sadly, we're just either too blind, too deaf, too busy, or just not focusing enough to hear what our whole team is telling us, however you call God, he doesn't need to have a name. He's just the feeling in your heart.
Yeah.
And how he talks to us, he or she, talks to us. And I think this world is designed to keep you sidetracked or not paying attention. And then we go through life not being fulfilled or happy, or just, doing the same routine over and over and over. And we don't know what's going on with our life. And we end up 20 years later wondering why.
Hmm.
Why are we not satisfied? Why are we not happy? What happened to us? But it's because we're not listening, and the signs are all there. Like this could be a sign to pay attention to the signs you might be receiving. It could be numbers, right? It could,
Exactly. Like I 100% believe that. When I like when I say this all started to happen to me, it's because I was not raised to believe in anything spiritual. This truly I had like this awakening like a year ago. Uh but podcasts and TV shows and just kind of like what you're describing, it would just be all of a sudden in front of me, but the perfect message would come from it. So yeah, if you are listening to this podcast today, maybe this is your sign. It's your sign to stop, to listen, follow the synchronicities in your life. Don't dismiss them. And yeah, follow those breadcrumbs because we are being divinely guided, and for our life just to kind of flow and be peaceful and fun and joyful. And sometimes we just miss those signs because we're too busy being, in the future or in our past.
yeah, there's this scientist, or he was like more like a psychologist. He was Carl Jung, and he always used to talk about, he was the first one who came with the synchronicities.
Yeah.
Synchronicities, in my understanding, it's when different events will come one after each other, and they're like very matchy matchy with whatever we need to hear, experience, or learn. Like
Yeah.
I was saying, could be numbers. Say, right. Like one thing we believe is like angel numbers. Angel numbers are numbers that repeat themselves and have a specific message. And so
Hmm.
let's say 1111. Some people say it's for to make a wish. And the way I see it is like when it's the 1111 like this, to me is time to reflect, stop what I'm doing and just be grateful. And sometimes you can see the 1111 in on a billboard or in a
Yeah.
magazine, or it just, someone says it's 1111, And so you gotta pay attention to those subtle signs because they're not gonna come only one at a time. You can find 11 cents on the ground. And so
Yeah.
you gotta really pay attention to those signs because nobody is more special than anybody. We all get the messages.
Yes.
The trick is not to be consumed by, social media or just busy working, but pause and pay attention. That's what I feel it's important.
Right. I have a funny story of like synchronicities. So again, it was like early into my awakening where I'm learning about synchronicities and how spirits all around me. I just discovered who my spirit guide is, and his name is Tom. And I was driving, so I live in Ohio, and I was driving to Chicago. And I had, again, divine timing. I was actually wanting to drive like kind of by myself. I wanted to be a little selfish because this whole spiritual awakening just happened to me, and I just kind of wanted to take that drive to like soak it in and just be by myself and be in my own thoughts. Well, my brother asked if he could ride with me, and I was like kind of hesitant, and I was like, oh, it's fine, yeah, you could ride with me. Anyways, so we're driving to Chicago, And I'm telling him about all this. I'm like so excited. I'm like, okay, you're never going to believe this, but like I have these abilities of mediumship. I went to a medium. I found out that my spirit guide is named Tom. And and I was like telling him about like synchronicities. I'm telling him all these things like uh about this. Anyways, so we're driving and he says he's hungry. So we put in the GPS, like Chipotle, actually. So I put in Chipotle, and it was the weirdest thing. The GPS had me get off this exit, and I get off this exit, and I'm like, what? I could see on the GPS that it's literally having me get off just to literally do a circle and get back on the highway. And I'm like, why is the GPS making me get off? But at the point I noticed it, I was already getting off the exit. So I'm like sitting there like, this is so dumb. Oh, and mind you, okay, the other part I forgot to tell you. I found out when I went to a medium that so my guide is named Tom, and the sign that he's going to give me when he's around are hawks. So when I see hawks, I know like I feel like Tom's, watching out for me. So again, I just told my brother this whole story. We get off this exit and there's like hawks like everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the hawks. Look, see, I was telling you the hawks are following me. We get out the exit, hawks are like everywhere. I'm like, this is so dumb. I'm like, there's nowhere to turn. I'm so upset. It was like a one-way street. I had to keep going. I finally go do a U-turn and I'm looking in a different direction and I'm like, see the hawk up there? My brother, we're at a stop sign. He's pointing out the other window. He goes, oh my gosh. It literally took us to a restaurant called Tom's.
No.
And I swear to God, I put Chipotle. Like I even showed my brother. I'm like, he's like, are you messing with me? I'm like, no, look, it's showing us that we're still going to Chipotle. There's absolutely no reason for us to have gotten off this exit, done this whole like stupid circle, like just to get back on. Like Chipotle wasn't even for another two exits. Like it was crazy. So the whole like I'm telling you, the synchronicities, the divine timing. So then my brother's like, oh my, he points out. So on one, so we're at this, we have Tom's restaurant on one side, we have hawks flying in the sky on the other side. Then directly in front of us was this huge mural of angel wings. I was like,
Wow.
it was just, it was a crazy, something I'll never forget. And the whole drive, I promise you, the whole drive from Ohio to Chicago, hawks. I mean, they were just going across the highway left and right. It was probably maybe 5 miles would go by, if that, where a hawk would fly by. Like the entire way. If my brother was not in the car, people would probably think I'm crazy. But because he was there to like witness it, he was able to like back my story up because I'm like, no one would believe this. This is insane.
That's wonderful. That kind of reminds me of signs that my mom has been using to say, I'm here.
Yeah.
Well, she never told me that she liked peacocks or anything like that, but her favorite color was peacock blue. And every time she would come and visit the States, she was like, you know what? I'm thinking about buying myself peacock blue sweater. So I used to tease her so much about peacock blue. And because she would come here during the summer, there was nothing that color right or a
Yeah.
sweater and anything. And so after she passed, I started finding peacocks.
Oh,
And I knew that was her saying, "Hi, I'm still here." And so that was, it was just so well timed. And I
oh
felt
yeah.
loved and I felt like she was there and I could
Yeah.
talk to her. And so that's a very good experience that you're telling. I can't believe you were talking to your brother about it. And then you found a restaurant called Tom's seeing hawks, it's just, it's what a beautiful story.
It is. It like so I think when people ask me, like I've gotten the question of like, so when all of a sudden like you just had kind of like mediumship abilities overnight, like how do you just believe it or not think you're crazy or something? I'm like, because all the love and the support from people like Tom who, who are giving me these beautiful signs and just it's like comfort and love all around me that I constantly know like there's absolutely like no doubt in my mind that this is real. Like you cannot make that up. You can say, "Oh, what a coincidence." Like, hey, if that's what you want to believe, like, okay, but I don't. There is no coincidences. That was spot on.
Yeah, I really think that most people, if not everybody, has a story like that.
Yeah.
And if you do, write it down in the comments. We will love to hear about your stories. And maybe we can, eventually make a compilation of all the stories that you guys have. But yeah, it's like you were talking about your husband. And my husband, I met him since we were infants as well. His parents and my parents were best friends, and so we spent a lot of weekends together,
Hmm.
almost every weekend. And my parents and his parents will sing and play the guitar. It was just so nice listening to that while
Yeah.
we were supposed to be sleeping.
Yeah.
And so my husband was my friend. We would just go and play in playgrounds, and with his brother, my two brothers as well. It was just so fun. But when he was 7, they had to move here to the States, because his grandma was a citizen, and they
Hmm.
wanted him to come here. And so they did. They left Guatemala and moved here. And but they will visit a lot. They will go to Guatemala and visit. And every time we will have this conversation, and it was just so nice. And I remember when he was gonna graduate, he sent me a letter. And there was nothing romantic about it, kind of like your story.
Yeah.
And there was nothing romantic about it. And he sent me a letter. But the postal service in Guatemala is not the same as here in the States. And so he did write a line where it said, "If you don't write back to me, I will never write to you again." And so
Oh.
he never did, because the letter got lost.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, yeah, mine. And so he never did. But throughout the years, I had, a couple of boyfriends, and they will write me letters and stuff. And I always threw them away.
Oh,
But his letter was the only paper that survived
wow.
my whole life, because I still have it.
Wow.
And so, like your husband, I got married. He didn't.
Yeah.
And I had 2 kids, like your husband. And
Wow.
then when I got divorced, everybody was telling him, Heidi, she's single. He's like, great, but what am I gonna do here? And she's in Guatemala and me here in the States.
Yeah.
And so one summer, my parents told me, like, you're always studying, working, and or taking care of the kids. So why don't you come with us and ask your ex-husband to take care of the kids? And my ex-husband and I had a very friendly, healthy relationship. And so I told him, "Do you think that you can take care of the kids and I'll go with my parents?" And he said, "Of course, go have fun and enjoy." And so I came here, and he was single, no girlfriend, nothing.
Wow.
And we just went head over heels with each other. And
Oh.
we got married a couple months later.
Oh, wow. Divine timing, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost like also like soul contracts, would you like to explain what soul contracts are, or you want me to explain it?
You can go ahead.
Okay, so soul contracts is when before you're born and you have lessons to learn, um you got pair with another soul that needs to learn something from you. And so I feel like that's when relationships are meant to be. And whatever happens, you'll always end up together, like you and your husband, Megan.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, and it doesn't need to be all strawberries and cream, or cherry on top. It can be very challenging, but
Hmm.
that's because we're meant to learn something from the other person. And they're just like mirrors to us, in which we have to see and accept what we need to change within ourselves. And
Yeah.
so that's part of divine timing, because I think that when something is meant to be, it doesn't matter if you get married, like your husband, Megan, or I did,
Yeah.
eventually you're gonna end up going like you went, in
Yeah.
a tangent when you were going wanting to go to Chipotle, and
Yeah.
you ended up in a different place. But that's life. But it always brings us to where we need to be,
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of divine timing, I think.
Very beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And again, because this is all like new to me, like just to wrap my head around all that, um, it took some time and it's still taking time just to comprehend it all. But I do believe it and I can see it. And when you were talking about learning lessons and how our significant other, it can be like a mirror to us, and that took me some time to realize too. Like I remember questioning it, like what do people mean by they're just mirroring me? No, it's his fault. It's not like what do I need to learn? um but really it was lessons that I needed to learn and I needed to work on and learn how to love myself, have set boundaries, have, respect for myself. And yeah, there was a lot of lessons being thrown my way, and patience and compassion and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and who really likes to learn lessons, right? Nobody.
Yeah.
That's why they're called lessons, because they're difficult, and sometimes we can be a little hard-headed, and we just don't want to accept that it might be not someone else's fault, but our own. And that's, to me, when you finally get it, it is divine timing.
Oh yeah.
Um, because, the fact that we are negating or trying to not to reject all the times that we get the messages, and finally we decide to, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's me, or maybe this is because I'm hurt, or it reminds me of someone, or reminds me of my childhood. And when we open our eyes and we start
Yeah.
working on it and healing ourselves, well, that's part of the divinity that we finally wanted to accept and change.
Yes.
You know?
I can always tell when I finally learned a lesson because I don't want to like complain about that topic anymore. Like while I'm trying to learn the lesson, I want to vent, I want to complain, I want to like what. And then it's really funny, like after I learn the lesson, it is just like a calmness comes over me. And some people might check in on me and ask like how something's doing. And when I don't have any urge to talk about it anymore, I'm like, I that's how I know, like, oh, I learned my lesson. I have moved past this. Like this is, not an issue anymore.
Suzanne Guzman, our teacher, she always says when something like that happens, that her spirit guides, her friends' spirit guides are like, pass the popcorn, because
Yeah.
they're only enjoying how we're so hard-headed. But I also believe that when we finally do, they're like, finally.
That's really funny that you said. So one of my grandmas is one of my guides, and she comes through all the time in like readings that I have with people. And people are constantly saying that my grandma Oh, she just eating like a bucket of popcorn. She is loving this. Like this, she is so excited. She can't wait to see what you're gonna do next, what you're gonna say, who you're gonna bring through. Like she just sitting there with her bucket of popcorn.
Yeah,
So
but it's
they
true.
are. Yeah.
Yeah. And so going back to the divine timing, it's just it could be so many things. Like you might be going through a hardship at work and somebody else offers you a new job that
Yes.
you end up loving, and you're like, well, how did that happen? And you can attribute it to just a coincidence, but there's no coincidences. There's just not. And or you have a baby, and you need to have someone take care of your baby because you can't. You have to go work, and there is someone offering.
Yeah.
um there's just so many ways where if we pay attention, we're gonna be just nothing short of be amazed.
Oh, yeah.
Because yeah, that's again, that's the trick. Pay attention to it.
Yeah. And I think having the mindset of not thinking like things are happening to you, but start thinking things are happening for you.
Hmm.
When you start doing that, that's really when, spirit's working its magic and things are flowing for you. When you have this bigger view of things, uh, kind of just like what you said about like jobs and everything like that. That's exactly my story. I mean, I look back and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, what perfect timing." Like my husband had a late career change and he was going to be working, it was a firefighter, so he was going to be working 48-hour shifts and we have little kids. I was working like a regular office job, 8 to 5, and I'm thinking there's no way we're gonna be able to, like, have kids, like, waiting for me to get off work to pick them up, and I'm doing this by myself while he's in, work. So I felt like I had no choice but to quit that job, and it was a steady job, making good money, um, and so many people thought I was crazy. Like like, "What do you mean? So your husband's gonna just become a firefighter and you're just gonna quit your job? Like, what?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." Like, in my mind, there was, like, no other choice. Like, I'm not gonna just send my kids to aftercare and before care and all this other silly things to try to make this work. Like, I'd rather spend more time with my kids. So to me, it was like divine timing. It was kind of like an excuse to get out of that job, which I wasn't. It's fine. Like I could take things for that job. I liked that job. Like it was never like I didn't mind going, but I was so bored. I was it just it just wasn't what I was meant to do. And so again, it's like that trusting that divine timing. And I left that job. Then it's funny, I actually am not one to like sit still. So I always have to like be dabbling in something. So after I quit that job, I got my real estate license and I did that, but then again, like my dad passed away. My mother-in-law got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was the one that was like helping watch my kids as I would go show houses. And again, my husband's working like 48-hour shifts along with doing like training. And again, I just felt like this, I have to quit this. And I'm not a quitter. I'm really not. And so to like quit real estate after like a year, it was a hard decision, but it was like I knew I was meant to do something else, and I can't even explain it, but it was almost like, yeah, God gave me these kind of like excuses to let go of that job, and it led me here. I was able like, I took that time to dive into mediumship courses and channeling courses and all that fun stuff and do what I love now.
Yeah, I don't know why we sometimes don't see the beauty of it. Like you said, a lot of people were telling you, "What are you doing? You're crazy." But the reality is that God or, spirit was pushing you to doing or getting closer to what you were supposed to do,
Right.
And I think that the important word to say here is acceptance, and what to do with the best. You have two choices: either be bitter about it and complain,
Yeah.
fuss about it, or make the best out of it, which you did because you were enjoying your children, and that's never gonna go away.
Right.
They're gonna remember it, you're gonna remember it. And even when sometimes it comes with struggles, it's always for the better.
Yes.
And so I remember, something that happened in my life that it was strenuous. It was so hard. It was the hardest thing I ever been through in my life. But now looking back, and everything that I, at my 52-year-old self, I can see back and understand that everything that I thought was bad in my life, it wasn't really bad.
Right.
Could have been long, hard. It could have been just difficult and me complaining about it. But now I can see back. I understand all the good things that came from it, like you staying with your children.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be perfect, not all stay-at-home's mom, because I've been there too, have to be like, wealthy and or not having money problems, or no, we all are gonna be through different things, some better than the others. But at the end, when we look back, we see how rich and abundant we were to have those opportunities that some other people can have.
Yeah.
And so everything we have to see the good and the bad, but mostly focus on the good. Like something silly happened to me. We went with my daughter, my son-in-law, and my two grandchildren. We went to Disney World, and I had a nice outfit. I thought it looked really nice put together. And all of a sudden, my sandal ripped.
Oh my gosh.
And we were like in Disney Springs. So there was a lot of payment there.
Yeah.
And for a second, I got upset. But then I remember I had the choice either to be upset about it
Mm-hmm.
or to just laugh about it. And so I
Yeah.
took my sandals off. I was walking barefoot, looking for a pair of shoes that we didn't find except for a pair of Disney Crocs. And I laugh about it so hard. And now when I think about it, instead of getting upset about that memory, I felt so proud of myself for laughing about it and rocking those Crocs, for the rest of
Yeah.
the day. As I think that as you grow older and you start seeing all the blessings and all the good things, and that's just a very silly and perhaps not important example, but life is like that, really. You know, um,
Yeah.
when we look back and we see everything was for a reason.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think in my case, I really think that that was a lesson for me because it just reinforced what I've been believing. It's either you get upset or you laugh about it and do the best out of it. And so, yeah,
Yeah, and
divine timing.
sometimes our lessons don't have to be so harsh, you know.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're given like that, very, kind of simplistic, but it's those little ones that kind of last a lifetime, and can really stick with you, and kind of anytime you need that moment to like go back, I'm sure you'll have that flashback of walking barefoot and in the Crocs, and you'll be thinking about that years to come of like, I don't have to get, upset over spilled milk. It's okay.
Exactly, yeah. And can you believe in that same trip, my suitcase didn't come until a day and a half later?
Oh,
And
wow.
we were there for only, like, we were there for 5 days.
Yeah.
So the same thought came to me, like I can laugh about it, or I can we went to a Target and we ended up going to eat to vegan place, and that it was amazing, and vegan ice cream and the whole thing. I thought we wouldn't have done this if
Yes.
that didn't happen.
Exactly. exactly. There's
Yeah.
always like a bigger picture and
Mhm.
purpose, and it's just taking that time to try to see it, you know?
Yeah,
It's really
it's so
cool.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do make sure to leave us your stories. We would love to hear from you. And we hope that you enjoyed and liked our stories and that something stays with you. And do please always rather to laugh about it and to think about why is this really happening to me? And as your life goes by, to look back and see, oh, that's why it was. And
Yes.
because that gives you hope to see when you're going through something hard to think, okay, something better definitely is coming
Yeah.
instead of dwelling.
Yes. Beautifully said. I agree.
Mm.
Well, thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being part of today's Quantum Quest. We hope this conversation awakens something new within you, a spark, a question, a remembering. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, keep exploring with an open mind and an open heart. Bye for now.